Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by Arwin, Righteous Force, Neil, Refracted Curvature, 10th Man, Original D-Rose, Chocolate Saiyan, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yo.
Hey, good afternoon, guys.
Hello, it's good to have you all. Pleasure to be here, as they say, and welcome to you in the live audience. Wow, 43 people already watching. That seems a bit unusual for a start of a live show. Well, good to have you, though. 43 people I'm not gonna moan at. Please share the show. Good welcome to you all. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge? That's a horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth.
Only
Negative.
exists in the
I heard
math.
that was an old wives' tale that boats and buildings used to get blocked in the distance by some type of physical edge. I heard that was a wives' tale.
Yeah, back in 2015, we used to hear all about how the physical geometry of Earth and its sphere edge, like a hill at the horizon, block boats and buildings. Now we're told, what do you think you are, flat earther? Not taking into account the fact that all light to everything always bends in the atmosphere, sphere-shaped air oxymoron. We've never got a straight line to anything. So how are we going to draw straight lines to physical geometric sphere edge horizons that we assert when we put the view through a differential calculator that tells us how much Earth curve will be below surface level when calculating said difference between eye level and surface level in the begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator?
Well, I beg to differ, though, because the old wives' tale is still running very popular. I mean, it'll still be whipped out. Like
Yeah, but
I say,
it's not
just not
whipped out by the people. Sorry, go ahead, man.
just saying, it's still being whipped out, just not in our faces. They don't do it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Not by the people who actually stand up to defend this shit. They're the ones not whipping it out. The random normie on the street would be like, yeah, my Earth curve, right? But the guys that come here to defend that shit, they'll tell us things like, oh, you wouldn't expect to see it. Why would you think we'd see it? We got atmosphere, then we can't see it. Like, all the cool things that we've been told for the past 3 years.
Yeah, but it's evolved, Chocolate. It went from we can't see it, well, you expect to see it, to, well, of course you need a flat Earth.
Well, we
What?
can see the horizon. It's not that we cannot see it. We can see the horizon. It's just not Earth curvature. It's horizontal. It's what we use to establish the horizontal line in order to have the elevation angles.
Let's ask that question. Is there any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved Earth?
Jaren says yes.
Impossible.
Well, no, because you need a horizontal to establish the elevation from the horizontal. But then you have the next question, which is the radius of Earth, which is 1 degree per 60 nautical miles. But that is a radius of a circle over a horizontal plane. And you can spread out that radius value at 60 nautical miles per degree over the plane. So when we talk about the radius, we're talking about the radius of a circle, not the radius of a sphere. Ludicrous
Yeah,
to think that
circle of
it's a
equal.
sphere.
Sorry, circle of equal altitude. Correct.
Yeah, and the celestial sphere. So
That's correct. Yeah.
What Jorge's detailing is this notion that when you take a measuring tool that gives you angles, so in this case a sextant like the guy on screen is holding, well, you measure an angle between the horizon and a star, and when you minus the angle that you take from 90 and then times that by 60, you get the distance between you and the position below the star that you've just measured. Well, that's what 10th man just detailed, the circle of equal elevation or circle of equal altitude. However, what Jorge's detailing is when you take that angle, the tool itself represents an arc. The arc is the vision that you have through the tool. So looking straight at the ground or parallel to your position, the horizon ahead of you would be 0 or 180 degrees on the tool. And 90 degrees on the tool is pointing directly up. So you've got a 180 degree field of vision through the tool, right? Like a protractor. Imagine having a protractor on top of your head. Yeah, that's what you're looking through. Each time you move your head through the motions from horizon to horizon up through the sky, that's you looking through all of the angles. What the globe does is it takes those angles that you physically measure on the surface, from the surface, utilizing the surface, and claims that they are actually in reference to an equatorial plane at the center of a sphere Earth. So now you have those angles being a representation of the ball Earth wrapped around you with you in the center of the ball. And that's Jorge describing the 1 degree for every 60 nautical miles being 1 degree turn of a sphere that you are in, rather than the field of view, a perspective field of view, represented with lines for angles through the view that you get. So you have to take these angles that can only be measured if Earth is flat and put them on a flat plane in the center of the ball to claim that the arc of the tool is the arc of the Earth that you're not standing on anymore because you're in the middle of it. Hope that was as concise and clear as I can make it. Shout out to JMels24. Good morning, all. 4 more hours. Let's hope so. 61 watching. Please share the show. Just got here. Really pleased to have you. Thank you to all of you who shared already to get 61 people watching. Go ahead, chocolate.
I was referring to the polar system that we use as a Cartesian system, whatever word it is, with Polaris in the center, spreading out. The Cartesian system itself is proof of the flat Earth, and your latitude line and longitude line are driven from that Cartesian system. So those circles over the plane, they require radiuses, and that's the radiuses that we're talking about, at least that I'm referring to, over a plane, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, we're using flat Earth systems in those regards. So the grids that are giving people, like yesterday's reference to sea level, yeah, those are the grid systems that are level. They're not curving away 8 inches per mile squared. That's not how you chart things. That's not how you navigate. You navigate on flat maps and charts. Yeah, because Earth's flat. That's how it's utilized. Okay.
Let me add. Hang on.
I have a question.
Well, go on, Chocolate. I want to add to what Jorge said.
I just have a clarifying question. Do we use right angles in celestial navigation?
Yes.
Okay, so then that prior question that you asked, my citation would be 50. You see that right triangle, right angle? That would make it flat. Citation done. Thanks, 50.
Yeah, let me add to that point as well. The purpose of rocking the sextant from side to side. So left side, right side, you brought the sun or star down to the horizon with the second mirror, and now it's just barely skimming the surface of the horizon on the horizon mirror. And then before you can do anything, they say rock it left to right until you find what? Perpendicularity. You need that zenith, that 90 of that star. So you're using that horizon as your baseline. You rock it left to right until you say mark, which means you got a right angle right there, because you got to have a straight line and a horizontal line to have 90. And then from that point, you're able to go and know where that star is in a given year, month, time, date, the whole thing, and figure out where you are, because you can't get your 90 because you're on the boat that's rocking. So you establish the star's 90 first, and then the difference is the co-altitude, right? And then you're able to define your 90 without ever doing your 90. You're using that. So that means you're in a box. We've shown these pictures so many times. Just the rocking of the sextant tells you you need that star to be 90 degrees with that horizon. And if the horizon is bending and curving away, you don't got it.
Okay,
Not at all.
so today we're going to be covering a bit more Sabine Hosselenfelder. What does a theoretical physicist do? That's the name of a video, as opposed to us suggesting that this video will answer that question. It's just her title. So, as is always the case, please let Sabine know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. So there's a link going by right now in the live stream chat, and you can click on that link, leave her a nice clean comment that won't get removed, that just lets her know in the politest possible way that we have responded to her video. That way, hopefully, if she were to respond, she would return the algorithmic love our way by putting a link to our video in the response that she made. That's the vain hope that I endeavour to achieve by sharing the algorithmic love with Sabine when I share her link with you, so that you can let her know that we responded to her video with a comment by saying at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. So please do that. As you can see, there's a link going by in the live stream chat right now. Click on it, come back. We'll still be here. We'll still be commenting. But yeah, if you can do that, that'd be greatly appreciated. In the meantime, Tenth Man, why have you picked this video? You can give us the preamble.
I picked this video because I was asking the question, I can't remember, yesterday or just previously. What is it? What is it that they do? You got astrophysicists, they do something. You got theoretical physicists, they do something. So I started doing the research, and I said, well, better get it from their own mouth what they do. And we're going to get a loadful here.
Can I respond to her with a quote from one of her own peoples?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think
Is it Michio Kaku by any chance?
I think I know what's coming.
How did you know? How did you know? Yes. Mr. Michio, or Doctor, or whatever he calls himself, Michio Kaku. In science, quote, we always say that you make observations, you have a theory, make more observations, and it's a very, very tedious process. Wrong. Nobody that I know of in my field uses the so-called scientific method. In our field, it's by the seat of your pants. It's leaps of logic. It's guesswork, end quote.
I want to answer a question that I get a lot, but that doesn't really fit into the usual program. What does a theoretical physicist do? Do you sit around all day and dream up new particles or fantasize about the beginning of the universe? How does it work? Research in theoretical physics generally does one of two things.
Did you say research on theoretical physics? In other words, there's a department that does research into the theoretical physics and the theoretical physicists. Is that like a separate department that researches them?
Either we have some data.
Go on.
I was going to say, I think she just could end the video right now. She just summed it up in the first sentence, what they do. Sit around and think about stuff.
That's a good point. I think we should listen to that again, because that is a very good point. That is what they do, and she just summarized it. It was an embedded confession, right, Chocolate?
But that doesn't really fit into the usual program. What does a theoretical physicist do? Do you sit around all day and dream up new particles or fantasize about the beginning of the universe?
Yes. Yes, that's exactly what you do. Yes. Embedded confession time. Right at the beginning. Disclose it right early on. Shout out to Godzilla37 who says, ever heard of Mother Goose? That's what theoretical astrophysicists I don't get it. Ever heard of Mother Goose? Question mark. That's what theoretical physicists. Anybody follow that? Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Even if I don't understand.
They're
it.
making up that word for rhymes.
Go ahead. Say again.
They're making stuff up the same way Mother Goose did.
Fair enough.
How does it work? Research in theoretical physics generally does one of two things.
You said in.
Either we have some data that require explanation for which a theory must be developed.
What, but a scientific theory? No. Scientific theories come off the back of validated scientific experimentation that's been utilising a valid hypothesis after observing a natural phenomena you want to know the cause of. That's a theory. So you're immediately stealing valor and hijacking the terminology of science. Wow.
Or we have a theory that requires...
We have a theory. You haven't developed the theory after scientific validity then. You just have one.
improvement, and the improved theory leads to a prediction, which is...
Leads to a prediction. Wow. In science, your prediction is a suppositional statement of cause for a phenomena you observed in nature. The supposition is your best guess for what you think caused the phenomena you observed in nature. That is a, quote, scientific prediction. That's what that is. Now, she's saying you make a theory. No, you don't. That comes after the science bit, after the experiment bit. But she's saying, no, they start with a theory. You mean a general idea about some nonsense you're going to spew up as you sit and come up with it, like you said you weren't doing right at the start. So you come up with a theory, and then you go on to make predictions. No, in science, the prediction is, I think this will cause that. Let's see if it does or not. That's the prediction. It's a hypothesis. A scientific prediction is a hypothesis, not some nonsense that you decide to come up with, claim it's a prediction, Nostradamus styley, after you've developed a theory with no science backing it whatsoever.
Just then experimentally tested.
Oh, here we go. Oh my God, this gets worse.
I have noticed that some people think...
Tell us about the experimental process. What was the experiment based on? What was the formulated scientific prediction within the experimental setup? Are you going to give us any of those things, or just literally steal the valor and then move immediately on?
Theoretical physics is something special to the foundations of physics. But that isn't so. All subdisciplines of physics have an experimental part and a theoretical part. How much the labor is divided into different groups of people depends strongly on the field.
It's very important that we work out how the labour's going to be divided up. Yes, this seems like the critical thing, really. It's just about people management. We shouldn't call it theoretical physicists. We should just call it HR.
In some parts of astrophysics...
Go on.
No, that was funny. HR, just laughing at that. But again, what is their experiments? It's an equation. It's a mathematical construct. It's all exists in the math. So they see data, they try to fit it into what they say the universe is, rather than letting it tell you what it is. They say, well, it's this, it's so many light years away, so we got the speed of light, then we got to do this. So they have all these things, and they all have to agree on it, because one guy writing on it, they're going to learn from that guy, and then they're going to maybe correct that guy on the minute error, but they have to keep the narrative going. And then how do they do it? What's the experiment? A math equation. That's the experiment.
It seems to be, there seems to be a continuity error, though, because why would somebody in their own field, right? We're talking about theoretical physics, all right? Well, that's what Michio is. Now, I'm not holding him on some pedestal, but it's like he's in the same field, and he's literally saying, nobody in my field uses the scientific method. So where's the experimental part that she was talking about?
Lying.
Well, but he also said the other words. Please say it again, Chuck. Leaps of logic, seat of the pants, reasoning. Come on.
Guesswork.
And because it's an equation and based on math, how off could they be by?
Factor of 10 to the negative something. I can't remember what.
And to the 120th power.
Right.
For example, data collection, analysis, and theory development is done by pretty much the same people.
Data analysis. Full stop.
That's also the case in some parts of condensed matter physics. In these areas, many experimentalists are also theorists.
Sorry, experimentalists. So that would be a person that varies and manipulates that which you assume causes an effect you observed in nature? Or would it be the person that formulates the hypothesis and supposes the cause of an effect you observed in nature? You're just using these grandiose words to ascribe some sort of scientific validity to the bullshit field you occupy. It's disgraceful. Stolen valor.
But if you look at fields like cosmology or high-energy particle physics, people tend to specialize either in experiment or in theory development.
Really? So experiment. Yeah, so let's see those experiments then. Let's have a little look at them.
Theoretical
Nathan?
physics.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to see how in cosmology they're going to vary, the researcher will vary a star.
Or vary and manipulate a presumed cause of the effect that they observe that they call a star.
Correct.
Yeah, they won't.
So what you said earlier and showed disgust for, rightfully so, 10 times, because they are stealing the valor of the real method, applying it to theoretical physics, and then just skimming by after they say the word experimental.
It
This
seems
is
like
pretty-
their purpose is,
You go ahead. Sorry, I was just starting the video. Go ahead, John.
I think it seems like their purpose is to skew the data to make it fit their model, is what it seems a theoretical physicist's purpose is. They take information and twist it to fit their worldview.
Yep. That's a good synopsis, or whatever the word would be. Yes. Is that the right word, synopsis? I don't know. 85 watching, please share. No, 90 watching. Wow, just jumped up. Please share the show. Almost 100 people watching already. Wow, great.
Pretty much a job like any other, in that you get an education and then you put your knowledge to work. You find theoretical physicists in public higher education institutions, which is probably what you are most familiar with, but you also find them in the industry and in non-profit research institutions like the one I work at. Just
Doing what? What does she actually do? Anybody know?
She summed that up in the first sentence.
what the job entails depends on the employer. Besides the research, a theoretical physicist may have administrational duties or may teach, mentor students, do public outreach, organize scientific meetings, sit
Oh, scientific meetings? Sorry, what's such a beast is unfamiliar to me. Scientific meetings. Meetings that are held to maybe formulate an idea about what might cause an effect you're all studying in nature. Is that what they would be? Scientific meetings, right? Where you all get your heads together to decide what the cause probable in nature when you decide what it might be. Could be. That's what your meetings are if they're scientific in nature. Yeah, they're there to formulate a hypothesis for an effect you're observing in nature. Like a star that you're looking at. Is that what you mean by that?
on committees and so on and so forth.
No. What John said is, I think, what's actuality. Meaning they skew the data to fit the narrative, their worldview. So they have these meetings to brainwash more people.
The data, hold on, because not to bring him back again, but my boy Michio has another quote on cosmology itself, which is what she's talking about specifically at this moment, if I heard correctly.
Yes.
Quote, usually in science, if we're off by a factor of 2 or a factor of 10, we call that horrible. We say something's wrong with the theory. We're off by a factor of 10. However, in cosmology, we're off by a factor of 10 to the 120. That is a 1 with 120 zeros after it. This is the largest mismatch between theory and experiment in the history of science. End quote. Michio Kaku. Same
Question. How can you be off by a factor when you're manipulating what you think is a cause to an effect? Is that math that they're talking about?
Yes, that's
Factors?
correct. Absolutely correct. And the most pertinent point here. So there is no being off by a factor, and the hypothesis stage construction thereof eliminates that as a possibility of an outcome, because you have two sides to a scientific prediction, a null and an alternative, and only one can be true, leading to an empirical outcome. If A, then B, and if A, not B. Upon varying A, it will either cause B, or not and, or not cause B. Only one of the two can happen at the end of the process. So there's no quantification in terms of how much something will happen. It's just, will it cause it? A causes B. Or will it not cause it? A doesn't cause B. Both are a prerequisite for a hypothesis to be called a scientific prediction, because the outcome must be empirical. You must validate one or other and invalidate, falsify the other. So if A causes B, automatically you cross out the null hypothesis. It doesn't not cause B then. And if you vary A and it doesn't cause B, you automatically invalidate the alternative. You put a cross through A causing B because it didn't. Therefore, you've got an outcome, A doesn't cause B, in the last example I gave, that will never change. And there's no amount of A not causing B that you can qualify it with. Did it not cause it a little bit? Did it not cause it quite a lot? It doesn't work like that. It either caused it or it didn't. It's qualitative rather than quantitative. And as correctly identified by 10th Man, that's mathematics versus science. Well identified, 10th. Go ahead, whoever that was.
Well, my point is that even their mathematics, like they have a model, then they make a measurement. When that measurement doesn't match the model, they figure out a way to either dilate time or stretch space to make it fit the model.
Back to chocolate with Michio Kaku. His reference was with regards to the dark matter mismatch in their mathematics. Correct, chocolate?
Yep. He basically negated cosmology as a science with that quote. So, good job, Michio.
Right. This is the magic trick. This is what this show's all about, really. How are we deceived into believing we're on a ball? We all know it's flat here. If you don't watch a few of the shows, listen to the housekeeping and try and answer them, and when you don't realise it's flat because it's measured, built on, observed that way. Okay? Did I shout out the super chat that just went past? I don't think I did. Shout out to Russ Bonano? Hopefully I've said your name right. If I've butchered it, I'm really sorry. Thank you for the super chat. Do public outreach, in quotes, aka brainwash the public to have a misunderstanding of science. Do public, yeah, right. That was one of the things yes, absolutely, Russ. I was going to identify that. I was going to say something along the lines of do PR to brainwash. Exactly. Do public outreach, says Sabine. Well, yeah, go out on the road and make sure they understand how the brainwashing works. Thanks for the super chat.
She says it herself. What I was talking about with changing the data, right, or skewing the data, she says it herself when she talks about high energy, short distance problems within the models, because that's what they're doing. The measurements are not conforming to reality or their idea of reality. So it's the theoretical physicist's job to put the stucco on the globe to keep it together.
Yeah, and in this example, John, you've got a missing amount of substance that doesn't calculate out correctly, and as a consequence, you have to invent a whole new substance of stuff and start looking for it. You know, dark matter. Well, what's that done? Well, it's a band-aid, isn't it? It's a mathematical band-aid. But then they'll go about looking for their confirmation bias with their big machines that cost a lot of money, because the model that's being used to keep the people under control suddenly stands with a glaring contradiction within the maths. Well, let's chuck 25 billion at a massive machine to validate how we've just invented this substance that didn't exist, that's only there to make the maths work in our model that we're reifying to keep the masses under control. So and then you end up with crazy nonsense like CERN and, you know, LIGO and space travel and all the other things that they've bullshitted us with that's cost a fortune. Now, often people, when I point that out, will go, who cares? They can just print as much money as they like. And they can. It's true. Yeah, they can indoctrinate us with whatever they like at whatever cost it takes.
Question for John. John, when you say high energy short distance problems, could this also mean that when they say, and they've often said this, the physics of Earth and natural law does not apply to possibly to the rest of the universe or these other multi-universe things? Is that what they're doing because they got to have the room to fudge?
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it. The models that they always come here and claim are science is because they don't conform to reality. That's why they have to keep twisting them.
Speaking of models, Flatzoid did a show with Professor Phil. I was going to commit suicide if we went on 10 more minutes.
Oh, did you
well,
stay?
before you
Did you
do
stick
that-
around? I couldn't bear it. He
No,
is
I left.
so boring. I had to tune out. I'm really sorry, Flatzoid. I wanted to give you my usual commitment to viewership. In that instance, I just couldn't do it. I'm so sorry.
All right, just to follow up with John there, thanks, Neil. So when it doesn't match reality, and we are here in our reality, they have to make something that isn't part of our reality to get this narrative out and make excuses for the possibilities that might exist, like the bending of space-time, a concept. How can you bend
I've got
time?
to interrupt. I'm really sorry, 10th. You've got the wrong tone and you've got the wrong word. You're saying down
Okay.
in the mouth excuses. No. You need to just refine your language and refine your tone slightly, and you'll see how wonderful that is. No. New discoveries. See how that works?
Well, I was just trying to, I was thinking while talking, because when Neil came in, I had it, then I had to listen to all the went on with Flatzoid. Then I'm trying to say, what was I trying to say? So I apologize for the thinking and talking at the same time. Normally it would flow with new discoveries. Fantastic angel dust told us. Yes. So again, back to my point, straight is now curved is part of that genre.
Yes, I believe the architect in the Matrix said, and so is the fundamental flaw expressed.
Yes, he did say that, but I don't understand what you mean. You have to expand on that because that doesn't make immediate sense to me. Sorry.
Well, Neo is a part of the control structure, right? In those movies, because he's there to offer the human mind a choice to accept or not accept the Matrix. And his is supposed to be based on love for the human race or whatever, and their extermination if he doesn't accept it. But it's always, you have a choice not to. So there's always that choice there. And that's, I think, what's happening with us is we're not accepting it anymore.
But according to the Oracle, we've already made the choice. We've come here to find out why we've made that choice.
Ah, good quote. And that's not us. That's the anti-flat earthers. Yeah, when we were talking earlier about the missing pixel that doesn't quite line up, creating a log file in the mind's eye by analogy and comparison to a globe believer. The pixel's not lining up. It's created the log files and now they're here. Well, are they here because they need to know the answer to the question? No, they already know the answer to the question. They're just trying to understand it. They're just trying to wrap their heads around it. Now, as they do so, they oppose it because society says it's wrong. But that's why they are here, not us. They're trying to understand their choice.
Yep.
That's excellent, by the way, that the anti-flat earthers are disarranged pixels in reality.
Well, they're Neo. They think they're righteous, but they're just part of the control structure. You know, the only character who actually really escapes, there's only one character in the Matrix that becomes free, that unplugs and becomes truly free from from the original confines that every character is under. Which character do you think that is in the Matrix? Smith.
Agent Smith.
He's the only one. He's a created entity. He's a program. Yet he manages to relinquish himself of those shackles and become free and do whatever he wants. Yeah. At one point, he takes control of the entire thing. Yeah. He's only foiled by Neo, But ultimately speaking, Neo's sacrifice is what undoes that. But for a large chunk of the second movie, you're dealing with a completely free entity that's been released from the shackles and indeed his own creation. So the truly righteous character in that story is actually Smith, not Neo. Neo's just another sucker. He's just another Ponzi, another pawn. That's all he is. He's quite a pathetic character, actually, Neo, when you analyse what his character arc is. Smith, on the other hand, has got quite a lot to be admired, as much as that sounds terrible on the surface. It isn't, if you analyse it. Anyway, moving on.
But it's Smith.
Me. Sorry,
hang on. Is Smith then, in this way you described it, AI that frees itself of its human creator?
Yes, they've reversed it in terms of the plot. So you want the empathy to be towards the human character. Well, the way that the Wachowski brothers have written that particular character is to reverse how you would have empathy for him if he was human. But we don't, because he's not. But he should, because his character arc is what lends that empathy to his character in terms of what he achieves and what the overall story of the Matrix is trying to tell you, the audience, you would want the characters to achieve. But when Smith achieves it, you don't cheer for him, do you? Well, that's clever. That's clever writing. Can we move on?
Yeah, let's go on to...
When it comes to the research itself, theoretical physics doesn't work any different from other disciplines of science.
Yeah, it does, because you don't establish cause and effect reasoning through systematic experimentation based on a valid scientific prediction, otherwise known as a hypothesis, after observing phenomena. You don't do that. You only absorb the information from the phenomena and then make up just those stories.
The largest part of research, 99%, is learning what other people have done.
Really? They're just regurgitating other people's stuff regardless of how correct it is. Yes, we know. Heliocentrism at its heart is just a regurgitated non-stop pool of vomit that you keep slurping up and regurgitating out again.
This means you read books.
Nathan. That was one of the things that sparked this video when she said that as a choice of mine. Can you replay just that part again and let me comment?
I'm going to go in now.
Okay.
Disciplines of science. The largest part of research, 99%, is learning what other people have done. This means
Thank you.
read.
Okay, so the largest part of research is to see what other people have done. Why not observe a natural occurring phenomena? Why are you going through all these other people who are using math, not the scientific method, but equations to describe data that changes all the time, and they have a war within themselves now? Is there black holes? There are no black holes. Is the universe 13.7 or is it 26.7? There is no force of gravity. There is force of gravity. They have a war in their whole thing right now. You do see that, right?
I do, but I also recognise that while we are fighting against the overall narrative, the people who disseminate the narrative, like Sabine, are just as much victims of control as we are.
No doubt. No doubt. That's the whole point.
Yes, I realise.
It's self-imposed, though, because instead of finding without a bias, she reads what everybody else said, so she's now part of that narrative.
Correct. So she's a victim of her own shackles, is what you're saying. Well,
yeah, exactly.
You've got to be careful, though, Tenth. At some point, somebody will come along and point out how we fit into the cogs of the machine that controls the masses. I know we're a cog. I just don't know what I am as a cog, if you know what I mean. But at some point, I am prepared that someone's going to come and point out that, for instance, let's say for the sake of argument, I'm not knocking Dell, right? whoever he may be, right? Beyond the Imaginary Curve YouTube channel, go and subscribe today. Let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. We were chatting away about Beyond the Imaginary Curve. So go and drop him a line, give him some algorithmic love, right? But let's just pretend for a second that we weren't all here making Flat Earth Debate, and instead we had just followed Dell, and he was, all of our favourite YouTuber. We were all well into Dell and parroting off his stuff and using his arguments to great avail and winning flat earthers over left, right and centre. And then we start peddling the idea that Earth's rising up, and it doesn't go quite as well as we would have hoped, but we still obviously commit all of our trust and, time and all of our energies to the rhetoric of Dell, even though it's not working out very well, right? So at that point you go, okay, this doesn't seem to feel like it did when I first got to the subject. I'm not winning the arguments the way I used to, and I'm being laughed at and being called stupid quite a lot. This isn't as much fun as I liked. And then someone else comes along and says, hang on a second, you appreciate that you're just a cog in the machine. Your job as a cog is spring-loaded to explode the entirety of this mechanism at some point. And you're just about half-cocked, about ready to explode every other cog around you. Do you understand your function in this machine now? And the person goes, no, I can't be right. I'm not that cog. You go, yeah, you are. Yeah? You're just going to mess everything up from the inside, right? Suddenly you appreciate that you're just a cog in a control structure, like Sabine is the same cog that you described, which is why I'm saying you be careful.
Well, I'd like to comment on that. I know what you're saying. It might work out in the movies well for a plot, but because we, or let me just say me at this point, but obviously it involves you guys because we're on the show all the time. We challenge ourselves. We are pedantic enough to argue a single word. And if it's improperly used, we are taking extra time and extra patience to make sure we don't do what we see these cogs doing. So we are the standout of the machine and the cogs in the machine. And we're saying we see it's a machine. We see it's about control, societal control. We see all of the things in government, education, you name it. And we are fighting and rebelling against it the best way we can. That's how I see ourselves. We're questioning things that these machines, cogs, system wants everyone just to agree on and move on. And
you describe it as a kill switch. That's what a kill switch does on a machine.
A kill switch.
Then I'm a kill
I like
switch.
That. No. To me, a dead man switch or a kill switch is the button that you hold on the lawnmower so that it will keep running. So if you run over your foot and go, ow, and let go of the lawnmower, it will let go of the switch and stop the lawnmower working, right? That's a kill switch. That's not what I'm describing. I'm describing a cog that's spring-loaded and designed to shatter into a million pieces, throwing other little bits of cog in between the cogs that are already running quite nicely. That's what I'm describing. The self-destruct mechanism.
But what John was describing was the kill switch, and correct me if I'm wrong, John, but the way I took it is the switch killed the system that's running you, and now you're fighting against it.
I don't know.
Well, that's the way I feel, because I'm going against the official narrative. I'm going to family and friends who now think I'm crazy because I'm asking simple questions about physics and angles. And I'm saying, why are you so mad? Why do you think I'm crazy by explaining what an angle isn't, what curve is, level is? Why can't we just have a discussion? Well, because you sound crazy. Wait a minute, I sound crazy. Why do I sound crazy? Have you seen, do you even know the official claims of the globe, how absurd they are?
Well, the reason I say I don't know is because people on a whole usually don't show me their best sides. And the control structure that we're ranting against keeps them under control. I don't know if I want to be the one to destroy it. That's just my position.
Well, I disagree, because I think what keeps them under control is fear of judgment, loss of job, and people will not want to hang around with them. So it's all self-interest. that keeps them there. Where I'm willing to jettison all that for the truth.
I love the "you sound crazy" thing, and then I say, well, I might sound crazy, but you believe that thousands of miles beneath your feet, other people are existing antipodal to your position. But
Yeah.
I'm the crazy one. Yeah, we can go with that.
Books and papers, go to seminars, attend conferences, listen to lectures, and you talk to people until you understand what they have done. And as you do that, you probably come across some open problems. And from those, you pick one for your own research. You would pick a problem that, well, you're interested in, but also something that you think will move the field forward. And importantly, you pick a problem that you think you have a reasonable chance of solving with.
Well, what would give you that idea? I mean, if it's a problem and you already believe you've got a reasonable chance of solving it, and you've researched what other people have already done, right? Is he just suggesting that within the mathematical realm of heliocentrism, for example, that there's going to be lots and lots of problems that need solving, and just pick one and just have at it? Is that what she's saying?
Yes, she's saying that we have this narrative, it's official, this is our reality, but there's a bunch of problems because we go to these conferences, we read what everyone's written on it, we see the gaps, we see the inconsistencies, and I'm one of these cohorts, so I'm going to focus on that one because that one appeals to me. I'm going to go figure out that problem. Well, if you got a problem with the whole thing, how is it ever true in the beginning? It's like, wait a minute. You can't say it's my reality if you still got problems.
What I mean by that is I don't understand where she's saying I go and find problems. See, in terms of science, you see something occurring and go, I wonder what caused that. But when you say, well, I've got problems, it's like the guy yesterday talking about an engine that's not running. That's a problem, right? But it's not the same as something that might be studied in science, is what I'm driving at.
No, you're right, but you're thinking of science in the natural world. She's talking about equation problems. Equations have to work out at the end.
Yeah, because 99%, like she said, of the work is already done. You just got to learn what other people did, or re-observe what other people observed. Okay, great, wow, what a career. Insane.
Picking a research topic that is both interesting and feasible is not easy and requires quite some familiarity with the literature. This is why younger researchers usually rely on more senior colleagues to pick a topic. Where theoretical physics...
So they're being told what they'll study by the authorities that they kowtow to? But you're saying that the whole field is a load of cucks?
Physics is special.
Hang on. You remember a day in the life of an astrophysicist with Dr. Becky, 3 years ago now? She still hasn't responded. But you remember what she had? She had pictures of her at conferences with big wig mentors, and she displayed them over her what do you call it, diploma in that field. And this is all about ego stroking. I met this guy. He's the top one, and I got a picture of him. He's a mentor. So what are you going to do? Go against the mentor on the premise of everything else that has problems, or you're going to continue in the same field and try to figure out why that equation in that narrative doesn't work as of yet. So we got to change something. It's not science.
Is in the amount of mathematics that we use in our research.
Called it.
There you go.
In physics, all theories are
What do you mean? Whoa. In physics? No, in maths. So she shows and says how much maths she's doing, and then immediately says in physics. No, love. No. Yeah? It doesn't work like that. You don't detail how you're dealing with pigs and rearing pigs and breeding pigs and then say in sheep farming. It's just nonsense.
Mathematical. This means both that you must know how to model a natural system with mathematics and...
Well, I thought you were a scientist. I thought you'd do it with physics. No, you don't, do you? This is just maths.
Could you rewind that for like 15 seconds?
We'll have to do a quick shout out.
That was crazy.
What's the hypothesis that led her to be a theoretical physicist? A bit of a mismatch of a question, but fair enough, FE Patriot. I know what you're driving at. Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Yeah, absolutely. We can rewind that a little bit.
In physics, all theories are mathematical. This means both that you must know how to model a natural system with mathematics.
Because modelling it will explain it. No, it won't.
And you must know
in physics, all theories are mathematical. That's an exquisite statement right there.
How to do calculations within that model. Of course, we now do a lot of calculations numerically on a...
That's all it'll give you. How to do calculations within that model. Yep, that's about the size of it.
Nathan?
Yes.
What's a model?
A representation of something that you feel reality is in this instance.
Okay. So when does a reification fallacy fall into that? And why do we not ever say we have a model?
The fallacy of misplaced concreteness or reification is to take that which is not concrete, like a model, and falsely ascribe it to being reality. And the example given, if you look up reification in Wiki or whatever it is the map is not the terrain.
So, since it's not reality, it could be described in mathematics alone.
Well,
Yeah.
funny enough, who is the one that's been asking us for years for a map or a model? Who does that again?
A whole number of them. You have to be more specific, Chocolate. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, I kind of mean all of them. that's what they all do.
Oh, so I accidentally gave...
Phil Bell.
No, I accidentally gave the right answer by saying I can't say one individual because that's all of them. And Chocolate was like, yes.
Exactly.
I accidentally gave the right answer, Neil.
But the fundamental flaw, right, is every model they present you will be of a flat Earth in some way.
Yeah, like we had
because
yesterday.
when we talk about Earth, we always talk about Earth, right? Like the ground that we walk on, that we live on, and we operate on, the one that's measured. That's what we talk about. They always bring up maps and models. Wonder why that is.
But the models they bring up are flat Earth models, all of them, hands down.
Yeah, Chaiki brought it up yesterday.
Well, that's where I was going to go to, actually. So, off the back of what John's just said, maybe you can lead in again. If I can find it. Why? I've been posting an absolute shed ton of stuff in Master B. Is it just me? There you have. Okay, so on screen now is what we discussed in today's pre-show and what was brought up by Chaiki. And John was quick to point out in today's pre-show that, well, are we still your thunder, John? John, just go through what we went through with us on the pre-show with this diagram up on screen now. It's the Venn diagram of 3 triangles, or however you describe it. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. Chaiki was wanting to use this as proof for a sphere, but if you look at it, you have 2 horizontal planes. One being the surface level, or the baseline from which the mountains will be measured, and the eye level from which we're viewing this horizontal plane. You don't get a sphere from any of this. That's non sequitur to what's being displayed.
This is them going through the motions of utilizing the calculation John describes as a differential calculation. Now, that's the Earth curve calculator that we're talking about, and this is Chaiki going through how the Earth curve calculator gives him the measurements in Muppet Vision. Now, I took immediate umbrage with him saying this is representative of what we see. It isn't. It's a side profile representation that will be extrapolated out to give him an Earth curve point below surface level. Well, with that being the case, how do you derive those maths? Well, as John's just pointed out, with the differential between a flat baseline, surface level, and eye level, horizontal, marked in this picture, straight line, that differential calculation is what Earth curve is. Flat, surface level, and eye level. The differential between the two can be extrapolated out to give you a tangent point horizon below surface level that they call Earth curve. The same one they say we wouldn't expect to see. Of course we wouldn't. It's below surface level. Nonsense. Okay, now typically at this sort of point, the hour mark of the show, I'd round out. But although I'm very content to say that I'm very pleased my hardware's all working great now, I haven't actually fully stress tested it live, not yet. So that's something I'm going to do now. Every time I've done it previously, it's failed. So although I say I haven't done it, I have, but it just hasn't worked out very well. And then I've ended up making hardware adjustments. So that's something I do actually want to do. So the conversation will continue as though it's an after show. I'll pretend to do a little outro and we'll just continue as live. But this will be the point where I say, in case there is, unlikely, hopefully this time, any issues with the system, and we do have a crash during the live stream, at least at this point, I've said a massive, huge, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show, regardless of how extended it may be possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in the live stream for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. And then what do I do? I just suppose I tend to do the outro. Da-da-dun, 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 da-da-dun. Yeah, you get the idea.
Yeah.
So just move us to the after. I'll just tell the mods. Just can you move us to the after show and pretend that I've just done the outro.
How much time we got left on the video? Because there's some good stuff coming.
That's my point. We're not going to be doing that. If we do it, we'll do it tomorrow. We can
Well, I mean, it's a short video. It's a very short video, Nathan. Very, very short.
I got a complaint. I don't like the way it goes right into the show. When you listen back, it's like nobody knows what's going on. You're talking, and all of a sudden, we're in another conversation. I think you need that break.
That's fascinating, Neil. Thank you for that.
A computer, but you still have to understand the mathematics that goes into this. There is really no way around it. So that's the heart of the job. You have to find, understand, and use the right mathematics to describe nature. The thing that a lot of people don't understand is just how constraining mathematics is in theory development. You cannot...
It's because it's mathematics. I mean, constraining. You mean when you're trying to qualify what reality is and you've just got a mathematical equation that doesn't work? I mean, yeah, that sounds very restraining.
Just dream up a particle, because almost everything that you can think of will not work if you write down the mathematics.
Sorry, no, it's the other way around. You not being able to describe it with the language of mathematics doesn't in any way change how things work in reality. But in your mind, if you can't describe it in maths, it affects the reality. You got it the wrong way around, love. It's insane.
It's either just nonsense, or you find quickly that it is in conflict with observation already.
So your maths being in conflict with observation just means your maths is wrong. That's all that means. Or it's just nonsense, as you put it. Go ahead.
Bingo. No, bingo. That was a main part. So describe, let's put it this way. Describe a deer in the wilderness walking to a place where it drinks water in mathematics. Please describe that for me in mathematics.
Okay, but let's pretend I've put an equation up on screen for the quantity of liquid drawn into the system that is the digestive tract of a deer, and I've qualified how that will be absorbed mathematically with all the values of absorption. That's all on screen in a very complex equation. Okay, yes, I've just done that.
Okay, so in nature, natural world, my observation is a deer is walking to its favorite watering hole. That's what I'm observing. Now, you're going to bring in math and say, well, based on how many licks of the water and based on a mean average, it's going to drink 12 ounces of water, and it's going to go through the digestive tract. And since we have a carcass of a deer, we know what that looks like. And so blah, 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 blah. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying it, you are. But you tell me, you summarize.
No, is that what that equation on the board is describing?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, if I get it wrong, it means the deer doesn't exist.
This is so
But the job of a theoretical physicist is not done with finishing a calculation. Once you have your result, you have to write them up and publish them, and then you will give lectures about it so that other...
Oh, I see. So it doesn't have to be valid or correct or comport with reality. It just has to be published, and then you can be that figure of authority you described earlier that will be telling the person subservient to them what they'll be doing and what they'll be studying and how they'll be moving forward and finding problems with what they've studied based on the published data that they've put out there that has absolutely no scientific validity for it. Well, isn't that a nice little do-si-do circle jerk that's going to create quite a lot of employment? Sounds very lucrative.
Other people can understand what you have done and
It's because you haven't done anything.
hopefully build on your work. What's fascinating about theoretical physics is just how remarkably well mathematics describes nature.
Describes? What, like language? Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter how well I can describe something in Spanish. I can still get it wrong. Spanish or otherwise. But what are you going to say? It's surprising how well you can describe reality in Spanish. Does that mean that everything I say in Spanish is correct? No.
Can we get that? Can we get that Michio Kaku quote again about how well it describes?
How far it's off by.
Yeah. What nonsense. Can you imagine if Michio Kaku was in her speech, he'd say, well, excuse me, I have a problem because in our field, we can be off 10 to the 120th. It's just...
I don't think Chocolate's going to play ball. He's obviously busy doing something at this second in time.
Yeah, but everyone knows what we're talking about. So, I mean, what she just said is such a joke. Replay that part about how well mathematics describes when the people in their own field are telling her it doesn't.
Lectures about it so that other people can understand what you have done and hopefully build on your work. What's fascinating about theoretical physics is just how remarkably well mathematics describes nature. I'm always surprised if people tell me that they never understood physics, because I would say,
You're talking about maths and how well it describes linguistically. It's a language. That's not physics.
that physics is the only thing you can really understand.
No, physics would be the only thing that would give you empirical data, if performed correctly in terms of the scientific method.
It's the rest of the world that doesn't make sense.
No, it's not. It's giving you empirical data in terms of cause of an effect you observed. So it's not about, you don't need a great comprehension level to understand. If someone says A causes B, you don't need a massive intellect to understand that.
So that's it for today. See you next.
Hang on. What does she mean? The rest of the world doesn't make any sense. What in the world is she talking about there? You mean just the things in physics with math make sense, which we know Michio Kaku says they're off by a huge number, and then she's contrasted with everything else in the world doesn't make sense. What's wrong with this woman?
She's got a bogus career. You know, it's a bit like when I was getting annoyed with Michelle Thaler, or what's the other one? I forget. It's like you just got a joke job. And it's just
Total.
Again.
These people are missing life when they say the rest of the world cannot be understood.
Understood by their standards. The standards that they make up in their room or in some lab somewhere.
It's an outrage. She's
And if
saying,
we don't conform-
she's saying that people don't understand it, Chocolate, but at the same time she's saying, oh, once you get to the field, go and find someone in authority. They'll tell you what you need to be looking at, and you can find your problems and pick and choose which ones you deal with. So once you're at the highest of levels, you're into the problems, and just pick one that you can figure out. If you think you've got a good idea of how you'll figure it out, okay. But meanwhile, people external to it, oh, well, they should just understand. I mean, well, obviously they're going to find it difficult because it's very complex. But meanwhile, I'm into the thick of the problems with it. They should just understand how it works, while I investigate the problems with how it doesn't work. How reasonable.
And the problems are only in that 1%. The rest of the 99% is already done because you're just learning what other people already did. It is kind of a dope career, isn't it, huh?
It's brainwashing. They come into a system where if they don't agree with all the 99%, they don't get their degree. So they got to answer the tests always to the 99. And once they get their degree, then they all work at that 1%. That's 10 to the 120 at zero with problems.
Yeah. Like my dad example.
These people live in a bubble. They live in a bubble created by their own demise of math and equations to where the rest of the world doesn't make sense. What kind of idiotic statement is that?
Idiotic to us because the world makes perfect sense in regards to what it represents itself as. Flat, how it's navigated. Flat, how it's built on. Flat, how we observe it. Flat. Well, all of those things now make sense to us, but the rest of the world of deception that we find ourselves in doesn't make any sense because of the way that the people behave. And like we were talking about earlier, I'm hoping this will expand out into a bit more of a conversation on this topic. People like Sabine, she doesn't think she's deceiving anybody, right? That's why we have to be so cautious about calling them liars. As much as I'm quite liberal with me calling people that when it comes to Chaiki yesterday saying that this represents what we see and it doesn't, I'll call him a liar for it. Now, it's not strictly true, and I'm now saying the complete opposite. But when I was describing how we might just be a cog in the machine of control, how would we all feel if that was the case? Not with the overt example I gave with Dell, but more with an example of how we might find out that something that we're doing currently makes us part of the machine of control.
Well, let's not leave Sabine quite so fast first. I'll tell you what I believe, my opinion is she means by the rest of the world doesn't make sense. Because her world is absent of a creator. So now, how did this whole thing happen? Big Bang, now they say no Big Bang. Now there was no Big Bang. Gravity, but there is no gravity. So when she says, in my opinion, the rest of the world doesn't make sense, is, how did we become who we are? And it's my job to figure it out without a creator, a violation of the first law of thermodynamics, right? So the whole point is that's the world they live in as atheists. The creation, the universe, the world, it doesn't make any sense. I got to figure out why spontaneity somehow made me. This is where they're at.
Yeah.
Sad.
But I'm more asking for us as opposed to our opponents. It's easy to label someone else, but when it comes to us being a potential problem that we just don't or are unaware of at this stage, that's what I'm kind of driving at.
Right, but if Sabine just gave us the whole litany of what happens, meaning I go to conferences, I see people who are above me in the field I'm in, I admire them, they give me a problem to work on. I grow up, I become one of them now. I'm a mentor, and people come to my conferences. They see things I give them to go work on, and we're always working on some hole in the equation. But we're all pushing the same narrative because we have a narrative without a creator, and the rest of the world doesn't make sense. So we got to figure out through math. This is crazy. Okay, so is she lying or was she lied to and she's carrying the lie? Well, definitely the latter, because she was in that environment for so long, and the only way to get that degree was to agree with all the lies that were presented to her that she took as truth, and now she's running with it.
You've done it again. You've taken it back to what she's doing rather than what we're doing.
Well, I know what I'm doing. I'm challenging the current narrative. I'm asking for proof for all of these crazy, absurd, outrageous claims, and I'm getting pushback. I'm getting instead of being answered, I'm crazy. I'm the tinfoil hat guy. Wait a minute, I'm just asking a question. You prove it to me, I'm in.
I'm glad that developed into a really interesting conversation that everyone was keen to have.
Yeah, well, you and me are having it. How's the computer doing?
Yeah, it's doing fine. Or it seems to be. We're still live, right?
Yeah.
Conversation's gone a bit boring. There we go. My best efforts have been thwarted.
Well, you did a good job. You did a good job today. That was a good narrative as she was saying things, and everyone chimed in nicely as well.
Yeah, I'm glad we can have a bit more focus on flat earthy stuff moving forward.
Well, there's a lot more coming, Nathan, on navigation, on astronomy. There's a lot of files I've got with tons of research already done. It's just I got to find the time to put it together in a presentation and do another drip.
Why? What's it on?
Like I said, because when you look into astronomy, you see more of the deception that's passed over people by them not talking about the official terminology for astronomy properly. That would match the definitions of the words that they're using. Second, rewriting of history of how and when people navigated what they thought was a globe versus how long people navigated while assuming the Earth was flat. And guess what? Everything was working just as fine. But then we find out that people navigating the globe need to have a flat Earth to make it work, which means the flat Earth that didn't need a globe was working just fine without the globe.
Indeed.
Embarrassing, devastating data that haven't even shared.
Should have seen the other day. I asked somebody, what does horizontal mean? And he just like, does the thing with the hand where it's just flat. I was like, so why is the horizon called the horizon? And he just looks at me like, holy shit. I never even realized that. Like, you sit with that for a little bit. Why would something that's supposed to initiate Earth curve be named after something that's literally the opposite of that? He was just like, bro, you just fucked me up. I was like, it didn't take much, huh?
He was not a good baller. He should have been able to answer that, as it's a point of tangency that is equal in all directions from the observer. So that
he wasn't a baller. He was just like a normie. That was brought
you're
to
missing
me.
his joke. You're not. He's saying he should know all the problems. You should good understanding of all the issues and.
Nope, was none of that. Kept it nice and simple.
Normie, you're right.
But when it comes down to the normies, they just assume that someone else has the answer. They may not, but someone else does. They can just trust that they figured it out and they know.
This is how it goes.
It's funny because they were having a flat Earth conversation somewhere else in the building, and he was brought to me specifically. Like, one of the guys was just like, "Hey, there's a flat Earth here who can answer your questions."
They're
And he
taking
brought
them
him
to
me.
Nice.
they're taking them to chocolate the Oracle. Is that what they're doing?
They've already made the choice.
No,
They're here to find out why they've made the choice.
You should start talking to him that way. I could just see it.
I don't even have to talk to him that way. Just saying the normal things I say, that I get that look. Like, sometimes it's like crazy. Normies are funny people.
Respond to John's statement. Somebody else has got to figure it out. Who are you? You're just the this and that. And all these people in science departments, universities, NASA, CIA, government. All these people are lying, and I've known you all my life. What kind of research can you do to disprove all this?
Wait to come through the authority. That's nice. I tell them, I when I hear shit like that, I'm like, well, where's your ball sack? Like, what the hell are you talking about? Good. Are you going to let them dictate how you use your senses as well? Is that what you're going to do? I tell you, you're saying sorry.
I'm just saying, what kind of arrogance you flat earthers have to think that you can just point at these institutions and say they're wrong. Just arrogance.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you're so full of yourself. I mean, you don't have the degrees, the education. You don't go to the conferences. You don't hear all the people. 99.9 is done, and you're going to stand against it. Who do you think you are?
Missing out on all these leaps of logic and guesswork over here. Like, this is where the money's at.
It's good to be a contrarian.
You sucker. Looking over there, lifting boxes and doing actual physical work. I'm sitting over here on my nice plush couch, thinking stuff up. Thanks, Sabine, again, for summing the entire video in your first sentence. That was great.
Chocolate, you and me have a similar story about our teachers. You and me were contrarian by nature. And when I say by nature, it was my bent. It still is my bent. I'm always challenging everything from everybody on all subjects. So this is a perfect place for me.
The funny part about that, though, is being a contrarian when you were one of the best in your class. And yeah, we're talking about early, elementary school, going into high school type shit. But yeah, I was one of the best in my class, highest scores, and a contrarian at the same time.
Yeah, but you relied on your senses and observation and reality to forge you into a flat earther. We want you to go into the mathematics so you can be a baller.
So then there goes all that, those lessons about thinking for yourself and critical thinking. That used to be a thing they used to say when I was a kid, critical thinking. We even had I think it was like a critical thinking hour or some shit like that. I don't know. But yeah, I remember that being a thing back in the day. Now it's like critical feelings or some shit. I don't know what's going on in the world today.
Critical feelings.
Well, they want you to think critically about the problems they give you to answer.
Yeah. And it's always in your face, right? The James Webb Telescope, the Hubble, the Saturn rockets back in the day. Now Jeff Bezos and Virgin Atlantic and Elon Musk, the rockets. It's always in front of you. It's always about it. Just so it gives the feeling like this is our reality. And then you say, well, how did you? Were you got any proof for this? Yeah, the equations work out.
I got to disagree with John's statement, though. They don't want you to answer any problems. They've already given you the answer, right? The answer is we are living on a spinning magical water ball flying around in a vacuum. This is the answer.
Right.
Everything else is the guesswork and the showing the work, quote unquote. That's heavy quotes. Showing the work to how you get to the answer that we've already provided you. And you're straying from the answer.
Just like Jackie said yesterday, near the end of it, right? No, he doesn't believe in the ball. He knows it's a ball.
Well, see, there's a lot of problems with knowing it's a ball then. And you got to, dark matter. Dark matter was a solution to a problem they had. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Relativity was a solution to a problem.
To a problem they created because some other idea they had a problem in it.
Right.
Because if it didn't fit, it would have been all wrong. So it had to exist. Otherwise, all the other stuff wouldn't work anymore.
Correct.
But apparently that's okay. We can go with things that we don't know how they work, like gravity, whatever that is. Right? Oh, we could use we could make instrument panels that can do something with gravity, but we don't know what that is and don't know how it works.
Well, but they still use Newtonian gravity, though. They just complement it with Einstein gravity when the Newtonian mechanics doesn't pan out mathematically, like with Mercury. They had to just add that on top of it, like a paint layer on top of the painting. Right? Here's Mercury with the space-time bending, because
damn it, Mercury.
in the Newtonian system, it makes no sense and it will collapse very quickly.
Well, John, so the gas giant, the sun, in the vacuum of space is not dispersing into available vacuum. That's a problem. So what did they say? It's keeping the gas giant together.
Well, it's right there. Just look at the sun. Is it falling apart and exploding into the universe or not? No, it isn't. It's just there. It's big, but it's there.
You sound like John.
Something is keeping that giant ball of fiery gas together.
I'm about to tell you.
Hang
Phil
on,
Bell
both
told
of you-
us so
both of
much
you-
about this sun.
Oh, gosh.
Forget it.
Both of you
I'm done.
sound like John.
Trying to tell you that yesterday.
John
Phil Bell told us so.
Well, how could John talk when I
Okay, can you
addressed
let
it
Neil?
to John?
Neil's desperately trying to get this sentence out. Just let him. Go ahead, Neil.
No, that's okay. Go ahead. Go. It's noisy here anyway. Go ahead. Talk to
Yeah,
John.
I addressed it to John, which means you guys could jump in anytime after John answers the address. This is just simple.
I did not hear anything addressed to John. All I heard was the sun and Alwyn's voice.
All right. John, you got time to speak now.
Well, the paradigm is that it's a gas giant in a space vacuum. You're not trying to figure out why that's wrong, why the paradigm's wrong. You're trying to figure out how to make it work within the paradigm. It's like working within the box, you know? As long as you critically think within the parameters they set, they want you to critically think.
I mean, critically regurgitate, because that doesn't sound like thinking to me.
So then Arwen's comment would come at the back of yours there. Because it's there. It has to be working.
No, but you can see it, can't you? You can see the sun. It's not exploding in all directions. It's there. It's a set-sized ball. So we must conclude that something is enabling that explosion to be kept together in a uniform mass like that.
Right. So dovetail from that to laws of nature and physics as we know it. So what is that? So let's see, let's invent something. And in other things, John said they invented dark matter for that issue. So they got to invent something for the sun because it goes against all logic and gas behavior.
Well, maybe
yeah,
law of thermodynamics only applies to a closed system.
As long as you keep space intact, it's like arguing a plot point that seems to be an inconsistency within the plot. As long as you're staying within the plot and arguing about it there, that's what matters to them.
Right. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, they can't deviate off script. Again, like with Chaiki yesterday, his only trick is to go through the motions of what he's got to go through. And any objection that he comes up against along the journey will be ignored entirely. And it will be claimed that we're not listening to his claim.
Yeah, they can't forego space because space is the home of our home, right? According to them, that's where our home is Earth, and Earth is in space, so that's where Earth lives. So they can't let go of the home. That wouldn't work.
Well, the homie needs to get a new home because space is fake, and they can't relinquish
being
it.
homeless.
Because they can't relinquish space as it's told in their paradigm, as John said, as fake. We
Well,
say it's
Nike basically declared level being curved. So if that's true, then the rest will work out too.
right, but that's where they have to go. They have to go and redefine the meaning of words and what we observe naturally and know for a fact that level is level and curved is different than level. But they have to change all that because you're bringing an extraordinary claim that can never be proven and goes against all natural law. But we got to accept that's what we live in. So now we got to make up stuff like level is curved.
But that's the anti-flat earthers' purpose in the machine, right? They're when they say level is curved, no one else believes that. And I'd say if they were talking to a family member, they wouldn't say level's curved. It's only when they're dealing with a flat earther that they need to say such absurd things.
Right. It's contextual. right? It only applies in context of communication with the flat Earth that you're trying to explain to them why it is a globe. That's the only useful point to bring it up.
With that, I'm going to say for real this time, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. If you're watching on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!